Today we're going to be talking about the disturbing case of the weepy voice killer, who would call the police after his murders in immense regret and remorse. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, I post true crime content like this all the time, so if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button, give it a like, put on your notifications so you don't miss when I upload a brand new case. Today we're going to be talking about the case of the weepy voice killer. This one, if you're easily scared by you get spooked easy, don't watch, probably skip out on this one, because I'm going to include voice note, like police calls, and they're kind of creepy, so if you get scared, skip this video out. So let's get on to today's case. Today we are going to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul in the state of Minnesota in the US, back on New Year's Eve of 1980. The two cities were originally separate, but due to the population growth, they kind of grew into one city. So, 31st of December 1980 is when the first attack happened. 20-year-old Karen Potak was on a night out at a nightclub with her sister. Karen leaves the club alone and a man in a car pulls up offering her a lift home. The walk to her home was not very far, but Karen decided to accept this lift anyway. The man in the car drives Karen to a secluded area and hits her around the head multiple times with a tire iron. At 3 AM, the police department received this creepy call from the killer.
Yes, please, this is an emergency. Please send a squad to Pierce Butler Road, Molenberg Manufacturing Company, machine shop. Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there.
Can you tell me what happened to her?
Just hurry, she's laying on the ground in the back by the railroad tracks, by the edge here. Hurry.
What's the address?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Police were unable to track the call because it was just not long enough. The police arrived and find Karen's body by the side of a railway next to a manufacturing company. Karen's head was so injured that her brain was partly exposed. At this point, somehow Karen was still alive. She was rushed into the hospital where she recovered and she actually survived the attack. Luckily for her, she had no recollection of the attack. But unfortunately for the investigation, police tried so hard to find her attacker, but because of her memory loss, she couldn't give any information about her attacker. On the 3rd of June 1981, 6 months after Karen's attack, the police received another call reporting another attack.
Oh, you find me? I just stabbed somebody with a knife stick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody.
The body of 18-year-old Kimberly Compton was found in the woods by a group of teenage boys. She had been strangled with a shoelace and stabbed 61 times in the chest with an ice pick. This time, the police were able to track the phone call to a bar opposite a bus station in St. Paul. However, when the police got there, the caller had obviously been long gone. Kimberly had no identification on her at the time, but she had a bus station locker key. So the police took this and they went and found her locker, they opened it and in there was her ID. Kimberly was from a town called Pepin, and she'd only been in St. Paul for several hours. She dreamed of moving to the big city after her graduation, and this is exactly what she had done. She arrived in St. Paul, she rented out this locker to put her belongings in while she went across the street to Mickey's Diner. It is believed that during or after her meal, she was approached by a man. The customers and staff at the diner were all questioned, but to no avail. 2 days later, the police department received another weepy voice phone call.
Just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it. Don't know why I had to stab her. I am so upset about it. I keep getting drunk every night. I can't believe it's just like a big dream. I can't think of being locked up. If I get locked up, I'll kill myself. I'd rather kill myself than get locked up. I'll try not to kill anybody else.
His voice is very distinctive, right? So the police released this tape to the public, hoping that somebody would be able to recognise the voice and hand in a name. Hundreds of names were given, but none of these led to anything. At this time, the press decided to give him the name of the weepy voice killer. In March of 1982, the police had their first breakthrough. A mentally ill man had recently confessed to the murder of Kimberly Compton before taking his own life. This lead was quickly debunked though, as this man was in jail at the time of the murder. On 6th of August 1982, a woman named Barbara Simons was seen at a bar dancing with a man. She says half-jokingly to a waitress that she hopes this man's nice, because he was giving her a lift home. And this was the last time that Barbara was seen alive. The police then received yet another phone call from the weepy voice killer.
Emergency.
Please don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one. Oh, my safe. Oh, I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm sick. I'm going to kill myself, I think.
Where are you?
I'm just going to... If somebody dies with a red shirt on, it's me. I killed both of you. I'm sorry. I'll never make it to heaven.
Barbara's body is found at the side of the Mississippi River in Minneapolis. She had been stabbed over 100 times. The police went and interviewed all of the staff at this bar, including the waitress Barbara had made that comment to. The waitress had felt so weird about this interaction, so she was able to remember it in full detail. She had given a detailed description of the man. The police showed her some images of many different suspects, and she pointed out a man named Michael Stephani. Paul had a previous conviction for aggravated assault and was put under 24-hour surveillance. 3 years prior to these murders, Paul had been fired from his job at that same manufacturing company where Karen Potak's body had been found. August 20th, 1982, Paul loses the police team surveying him. He drove to the local red light district where he picks up a sex worker, Denise Williams, who was only aged 19 at the time. Denise and Paul drove to Stephani's apartment where they had sex, and then Paul offered to drive her back to her corner in the red light district. Denise noticed that on the drive back that Stephani was taking some wrong turns. Now Denise knew this area very well, so Denise had been a sex worker since she was aged 13. She was very street smart and she knew that she was in danger. Denise looked around the car for a weapon and saw an empty glass bottle on the floor. When Stephani pulls into a dark car park, she tries to leave the car, but he stabs her in the stomach with a screwdriver. Denise grabs this empty glass bottle and smashes it over Paul's head, causing heavy injury. Paul is continuing to stab Denise and they fall out of the car onto the ground. Stephani actually fell on top of Denise. A man comes running out of his house after hearing the attack. This man tries to help Denise, but Paul tries to attack him then, so he runs back home and then calls the police. Stephani speeds away in his car, Denise is rushed to the hospital and undergoes emergency surgery for her 15 stab wounds, and she actually survives this attack. Stephani then again calls 911, but this time requesting medical treatment. He used his normal voice and not his weepy high-pitched voice, expressing his remorse and regret for the crimes. The police were able to link the attack of Denise to Stephani based on his injuries. So they, as well as the paramedics, made their way to his apartment. He was arrested and held in jail, where Denise chose him out from a police lineup. He denied any involvement in the attacks and then was charged with the murder of Barbara Simons. This murder had taken place in Minneapolis, whereas the other attacks had happened in St. Paul, which meant that they were under another jurisdiction. So that meant that St. Paul police would have to charge him with the murder of Kimberly Compton and the attack on Karen Potak. His trial was 6 weeks long, and Paul Stephani pled not guilty to the murder of Barbara Simons and the attack on Denise Williams. Police brought in audio experts to be able to match Paul's voice to the 911 calls. They said they were pretty certain that that was the voice of Paul Stephani. His family was also brought in, and they all confirmed it to be the voice of Michael Stephani. He was found guilty of the murder of Barbara Simons and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. He also received 18 years for the attack on Denise. St. Paul police decided not to press any charges for the attack on Karen Potak or the murder of Kimberly Compton because they believed that the audio recordings were not substantial evidence. Paul Michael Stephani died in prison in 1998 from skin cancer. He was diagnosed in 1997 and then decided to confess to all of his crimes. He confessed to the murder of Kimberly Compton and Barbara Simons. He also, the attack on Denise Williams and another murder that he wasn't even a suspect in. 33-year-old Kathleen Greening had been drowned in her own bathtub on July 21st, 1982. No unusual 911 calls were made. Stephani seemed to lack any remorse for this attack like he had for the others. Police looked into evidence in the Kathleen murder inquiry and found that in her address book, the name P. Stephani and his phone number was in it, so this linked Paul Stephani to Kathleen Greening. Her murder had happened just a few weeks before the murder of Barbara Simons. Paul claims that he genuinely felt remorseful and guilty for what he had done, and that is why he would call the police afterwards, but he claims he had the urge to kill women. So that's all I have for this case. If you let me know what your thoughts on this video, on this case. Do you think he was mentally ill, or he must have some sort of mental illness? Anyway, let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos. There will be 2 playlists or 2 things on the end card. If you want to follow my socials, they'll also be there. My podcast is linked down below. I have a case suggestion form down below, so that's also linked. So go click it. And I will see you in my next video with a brand new case. Bye.